What's up, guys? It's Eventon here. Now, I really wish I could make a video talking about how much I really enjoyed the Stargate Trailblazers event and the cool combination of mining ships as well as combat ships and all that stuff. But that is just honestly simply not the case. Like, as much as I wanted to make a guide of different compositions and fits and guides and tutorials and all that kind of like typical high view clickbaity stuff that's on YouTube for every PvE event that comes out for EVE Online, this isn't going to be one of those videos. And honestly, I'm a little disappointed with this PvE event that has happened here. And it just seems, I wrote down a bunch of notes. Sorry if this seems a bit unorganized, but this is just me just kind of just getting on my soapbox, voicing my concerns and just getting my voice out there and seeing if anyone else kind of resonates with some of the concerns that I have or some of the things. Because part of the thing, even though I am a partner, I do want to give feedback or at least some of the things that I think that can be improved on with these event sites. Regardless, I mean, not too long ago, I think CCP Dopamine put up a post not too long after they kind of announced this event that they realized that there are in-game mechanics that players can use that will just completely ruin the site or the PvE experience for tons and tons of other players, making it almost unplayable in some aspects, which kind of leads me to my first point. And like I said, all of these are just bullet points. Sorry if I'm a little bit scatterbrained, but this event just definitely feels just rushed and unpolished. Like, there's just a lot of problems with these event sites that need to get addressed, and in some ways it kind of makes it unplayable in certain aspects, especially if you start running some of the bigger fleets like we're doing here, a critical site. I'm just going to be running some general gameplay footage here in the background, so it's not going to be anything specific to what I'm talking about. Also, rush in the sense too that this event only lasts 1 week. You can actually get loyalty points for all 4 of the different empires, but if you really wanted to be one of those completionist kind of people, doing LP for all 4 empires and grabbing as much stuff and cosmetics as you can, it's going to be really, really difficult. And you have to put in a ton of hours in order to have that done. And also, just lore-wise, it does feel a bit weird too that the empires within a week can start building up these Stargates. I'm not sure if this was an ongoing thing that they already had going on. I'm not exactly sure, but it does feel a bit weird that the event is only lasting a week, yet you can get LP for 4 different empires and all that stuff. But regardless, it kind of leads me to my next point. And some of these concerns were actually some of the people that I knew that played this with me. The login and rewards are almost identical, and they both seem really lackluster, and they really overlapped. They all involve the mining boosters, whether it's for range or extra mining yield, which is helpful for these sites. But again, I'll bring up a point a little bit later that kind of makes these boosters just feel like really, really awkward. The next thing is, and this is kind of a small nitpick, I think it's funny how on the actual update page or picture of like the update of like the new gates and stuff, it shows a picture of different barges and exhumers and stuff like that. One of them is a porpoise. You can't even bring a porpoise to these sites. So I'm not sure why they even bothered putting a porpoise like up on the picture. We actually had a guy thought like, oh, it shows a picture of a porpoise. Let's bring one into the site. And it just said this type of ship isn't allowed. It's like, oh, cool. I guess we can't use those type of ships. So I thought that was kind of interesting. There's also a bit, and this is probably just more of an annoyance, me personally, and especially having like a bigger corp, that we constantly had a reship because people wanted to join our group to do the PvE sites. So we said, oh, we have 5 people. Let's go ahead and run the standard sites, which you can get up to cruisers in. And then someone else would say, hey, I want to jump in. You know, when we're like, okay, now let's ship up into battle cruisers. And then sometimes people would leave, and then we had to like redock and then downship. So that kind of got a bit annoying too, that basically as people wanted to join and leave the fleets, we had to constantly dock and reship our ships and change our the way we would actually do this stuff. So getting basically 5 or 6 people, you know, or 3 people playing all at the same time on the same page and having the ships capable of undocking and redocking based on people in the fleet was a bit obnoxious. I'm going to talk a bit about the reward points. As you can see, like on the left side, there's like the ore deposited, the pirates destroyed, the silver ranks or like the gold ranks and higher and stuff. The first issue, or at least that I noticed, because I did just strictly mining on all of these sites. A lot of people in my corp like shooting stuff, not mining, so I kind of took on that role of just mining. The NPC kills is really difficult because there are actually NPC ships in these sites that will help you kill stuff, or at least like take some aggro off of you. A lot of the guys voiced their concerns that they basically weren't getting points because the NPCs were actually basically taking the kills. So it's based on last shot, or like whoever gets the last shot on the ship as it blows up. So some of the NPCs were actually taking points away from the players because they were like last shotting these NPC ships. So that makes it even more difficult to get these points. especially if you're trying to run these sites with a lot of players. Resources harvested versus ore turned in. So we actually came up with an idea of like, hey, let's put an MTU next to these orcas. We tried a bunch of different techniques and ideas, and some of them worked really well. But we tried one with an MTU. So I was mining the ore, and occasionally I would drop down 10,000 units of this ore, and it would get tracked by the MTU. There was a guy there that would turn it in. So it was strange that I was running these sites, but I was actually getting 0 points for doing them. So we came up with this really unique concept of turning in the ore and harvesting them and trying to be smart about it. But then I actually ended up getting punished because I wasn't killing rats. I wasn't turning in the ore. So I think it would be cool that it would say ore harvested instead of ore deposited. I'm not sure if that's a thing that could change. Also below that, it says, get silver rank or gold rank or higher. I'm not even sure what that means. It just says do them fast, but there's no timer that tells you like, hey, if you want to get gold, you have to complete it in this time, or silver, you want to get it in this time. So there's no info or time to shoot for. So it's very ambiguous about what time you're even trying to shoot for. So I really wish they gave more information on like what timer or what thing you actually need to hit in order to get that that gold or that silver thing. Not speaking of that, the gold or the silver ranks, to the right of that gold or silver rank thing, there's a timer that constantly ticks down. To be honest, I'm not even sure why why they have this, because it really limits people's time on like how you can do it. So even if you do get a group together and you were shooting for that, sometimes you have to actually complete 5 of these sites within that time limit, and that's assuming you complete, not only that you complete the sites, but you also complete the sites very quickly, like in a timely manner. So sometimes if there's 2 or 3 hours left in that timer, you have to wait for that timer to reset and then have another 2 or 3 plus hours in order to actually hit that goal as the timer cycles. So you have to really be able to like hit these timers like in stride. I don't know how else to kind of enunciate that, but that part just did seem a bit annoying. That's one of the things you can get the biggest bonus for, but it's not only you don't know how to get the silver, you also are time gated on when you can actually get the silver, and you have to actually complete the sites in order to even get the silver or gold ranks in general. So there's so many layers of difficulty and misinformation that I'm not even sure how we can even get that. Speaking of misinformation, when I was looking up these sites, or at least the resource wars things, and this is probably just an oversight on my part, it said that some of these sites required, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 things of ore. Apparently these are units and not in M3. And strangely enough, even though the picture of this update shows like barges and, a porpoise and exhumers, those are probably some of the worst ships to bring because they are so incredibly slow. The orcas are randomly spawned throughout the sites. Some of them could be anywhere between 10 to 40 kilometers away from each other, so there's no way to tell. And those ships are just way too slow to actually ferry these minerals over to there. So you're actually better off with some of the smaller ships like Adventure and stuff. And because it's not based on M3 and units, a lot of the time I was actually like cycling my strip miners like 10% of the way, or even when I was using a endurance, I was cycling my laser about a quarter of the way and turning it off, and it was just crushing the rock. So you do not have to cycle your mining lasers, even halfway by any means. You quarter or 10% cycle them depending on like the type of ship you're using them, and that will crush the rock. And each rock seems to have anywhere between 800 and 900 units. I'm not 100% sure on that, but again, it's just one of those things where it's like, just to kind of keep it consistent, I would have liked them just to reduce the numbers and just call it M3, so that way we can kind of line it up with our mining lasers instead of just units. I'm not exactly sure. Our wormhole was actually connected to and around Tar, which was actually one jump over from Pakshi, which is like a Minmatar system. So that's actually where one of the gates was going. It did feel kind of bad that I was running these sites and I was getting LP for Minmatar, but I was nowhere near Minmatar space. So for me, when I was actually pulling up the LP store, or when I opened up my wallet, I looked at the LP tab, like the loyalty points, and I actually clicked on, hey, where can I turn on these LP points? It said there was no locations found. So as a new player, if they're running these sites and they're getting loyalty points and they pull up their wallet, and because I'm not in Minmatar space and I'm trying to turn in these LP points, I'm like, wait, so why am I even doing these sites? I can't even turn in these LP points. I actually genuinely thought that, just because I don't typically do a lot of like this kind of like loyalty point system, and I'm usually already in like the region that I need to turn it in for. So that can be really awkward or misleading, or just like you're just not sure how to do it. This is probably the biggest issue too with these sites, is that people can just troll these sites by entering them and just leaving, since these sites you can only have anywhere between 3 to 7 players. So a lot of the time we actually had about 5 or 6 players with us, we would try to enter a site with 5 or 6, either the standards or the majors, but because one person entered the site, someone in our group had to sit it out, and there was no way we could actually enter the site altogether. So one person had to sit it out, and sometimes people will actually start these sites and just leave. And once they leave, occasionally the game would kind of mess up and it would say you can't enter the site because it has the maximum number of people. So whether you left and you try to return to the site, or if someone entered the site ahead of time and then leave, you still just couldn't enter the site because it would just tell you it's on the maximum amount. There's just a lot of weird stuff when it comes to that mechanic of like entering the sites and whether it has the max amount or not. I think one of the updates did say they kind of fixed that. I'm not sure. I haven't tested it yet. But so yeah, it's just weird that even if you leave, so there was one time that I was in my mining ship and I actually had to leave because I was low health, and my ore hold actually disappeared. So that's kind of a smart mechanic, so people can't harvest a bunch of ore in one site and just keep it and just turn it in next time and be able to really like blitz the site. So that kind of makes sense, but that part was kind of annoying that even though you left the site, you aren't able to re-enter just because it seems like the people in the site are just glitched. I'm not sure how that works. The next thing too was someone mentioned in one of the comments, I haven't tested this yet because again, I'm all the way in Pakshi and I don't know what the loyalty point system thing says, but apparently they removed the ship packs from the game, or at least like the loyalty point store or whatever. And most of these ship packs usually had like a battleship. I think one example I saw was the Tempest that had either autocannons or artillery, whatever it was. But then they also had 2 mining lasers on it, like mining laser 1s on the thing. And because I noticed, and I didn't think about this till much later, like if these sites are intended to basically have everyone be in cruisers, battleships, whatever is the highest level ship you can bring, but then they just run mining lasers in the utility slots, because the mining ships did feel a bit wasted that you would only cycle your mining laser or your strip miner for like 10%, maybe 25%. And at that point, it's like, do you really need the mining bonuses? Like, are we just better off, let's say you're running a critical site, are you just better off bringing 6 battleships all with like mining laser in the utility slot and just mining each rock slowly? I'm not exactly sure. I haven't tested that yet, but it seems like that would work because you don't seem to need really high mining skills at all whatsoever in order to actually mine these rocks like in any kind of efficient manner. So maybe that's it, because when I actually saw that expedition, like the ship pack, I'm not sure if that's what CCP was going for, but if that is the case, then basically there's no point in bringing any mining ships. You're just better off bringing probably mostly battleships and a battle cruiser with a mining fleet boost, increasing people's yield, and then just being able to crush the sites without any actual mining vessels at all whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, some of the solutions I kind of came off with the top of my head, and it might seem, I'm not sure if this is within CCP's like realm of being able to do it, but just, have people actually have to be in a fleet before they can activate the gate. Make sure you have to have like the exact number of people to activate these sites. Also, a lot of these sites were just like highly contested. There was a ton of these like minor and limited sites, but some of the bigger sites, that actually required some coordination, anywhere between 5 to 7 people. All it took was one player to essentially ruin that whole experience for everyone else in that fleet. So I'm not sure if they're currently working on it, but it definitely seems a lot of this content is unpolished. But I love the idea of combining basically mining and combat and doing fleet-based PvE content. I really hope CCP continues to do that, because that's the kind of content I enjoyed. Even some of the PvP guys seem to really enjoy the PvE content and kind of coming up with solutions. That's how we came up with the MTU. We did a lot of like remote rep stuff. We put on a mining fleet booster on like a claymore to help increase the mining yield. Like there was a lot of interesting solutions that we came up with, and it definitely gets the brain working in different ways and just viewing the game differently. I just think that this type of content is just really unpolished in the general sense of things. So sorry for the rant. This isn't the type of video I wanted to make at all, to be honest. But at the same time, I think I would be remiss just to say everything is sunshine and rainbows when, at least in my personal experience up to this point, has not been the case. So I would love to hear it down in the comments below. What has your guys' experience been? Some of the issues you've had, but more importantly, if you guys do have a solution, because I'm the type of person I would love, I like to try my best to come up with solutions to actually fix things instead of just complaining and ranting and raving. What are some solutions that, CCP could do, or what are some things that they should do for the next event if they want to do some more fleet-based stuff here in the near future? So that's it, guys. Hope you guys take care and you fly safe.